Good morning, class. I am Mrs. Ibemeru F.E., your Business Study JS3 teacher. Today, we shall be discussing the topic trial balance in bookkeeping. The general aim of this topic is to acquaint students with the importance of trial balance in bookkeeping. And it is expected that at the end of this lesson, that the students should be able to achieve the following objectives. A. Be able to define the term trial balance. B. Mention and explain the functions and uses of trial balance. C. Extract balances from the ledgers to prepare the trial balance. We have been taught in our previous classes subsidiary books and the main principal book of account, which are the cash book, the journal, and the ledger. We were told that the subsidiary books are book of primary entry, where a businessman or woman records transaction immediately it takes place. Transactions from the subsidiary books are posted to the ledger, which is the final destination of every transaction. The ledger is the most important book of accounts, from where the major final accounts are prepared. And because human beings are involved in recording this transaction, they are liable to errors, which, if not detected and corrected, might affect the preparation of the final accounts. And so, the only way these errors can be detected or revealed is through the preparation of an account known as the trial balance. The trial balance is the list of The trial balance is the list that shows the debit and credit balances extracted from the ledger to test the arithmetical accuracy of the ledger entry. The ledger entry has the debit side and the credit side. And in bookkeeping, we said the principle of double entering is made complete in the ledger. That is to say, if an item was debited in the cash book, it has to appear on the credit side of the ledger, so that the principle that said for every debit entry, there is a corresponding credit entry will be applied or adhered to. And so, if carefulness is not taken and an account that will be, or an item that will be credited in the cash book also credited in the ledger, it means an error has occurred. And so it is important to discover this error through the preparation of trial balance, so that it will be corrected before the final accounts are prepared. That brings us to the function and uses of the trial balance. Number one, the trial balance is used to test the arithmetical accuracy of ledger. I just explained that ledger has lists of debit entry and credit entry. If the principle is adhered to, the debit side of the ledger and the credit side of the ledger must be equal. And since items are lifted from the ledger to prepare the trial balance, it is also expected that the total of the debit side of the trial balance should be the same with the total of the credit side of the trial balance. So the trial balance tends to ensure that such accuracy is involved. B. to ensure that the principle of double entering is strictly carried out. The principle of double entering states that for every credit entry, there must be a corresponding debit entry. C. To detect errors so that correction could be made later. If errors are detected, correction had to be made. Otherwise, in preparation of the final account, which is the trading, profit and loss account, it will not balance, and that will not tell good of such business. Finally, information from the trial balance is used to prepare the final account, that's the trading, profit and loss account, and the balance sheet. Most of the times, the list of these balances are given to students under exam condition, but will not be shown if it is a debit entry or credit entry. And so, it is important that students understand how to identify the items that are to be debited and the ones to be credited. This brings us to the rule guiding the preparation of trial balance. A. All assets must be debited. Assets, we know, are those things that belongs to the business. Things like land, the property, motor van, cash in bank, cash at hand, machinery, furniture, fitting, and all the rest. They are things that belongs to the business. They are not the property of the owner of the business. It is different from the personal property of the businessman. But these are items that belongs to the business. They are to be debited in the trial balance. B. All liabilities must be credited. Liabilities are the things that business owe others, such as creditors, people the business bought from but have not settled them, loan, and so on. These should be credited. Number C. All income or gain must be credited. Incomes are those things, those money or revenue that comes into the business, such as profits, such as discounts received. They should be credited. D. All expenses must be debited. Expenses include rates, the wages, bank charges, discounts allowed. All these are to be debited. If you are conversant with this rule, when you see any item, you will be able to classify it if it is either an asset or liability, income or expenses. And because you have this rule at the back of your mind, you will know if such item should be debited or credited. This brings us to the format of a trial balance. The first thing to do while preparing trial balance is to title the account you want to prepare. The business must have a name, and the name of the business should be stated, and then the account you're preparing, the date, the month, and the year. Like the one we have here, we have Fairtress and Son PLC trial balance as at 31st May 2020. Now you have a column for particulars. That's why you have the names of the item. You have a column, the debit, and a column for the credit side. We have a capital here. Capital is a liability because it's a money a businessman borrowed to start up a business. It's expected that the business should be able to pay back such money in future, so it should be credited. Sale is money that comes into a businessman's hand. It should be credited. Purchases is like an expense because when a businessman goes out there to purchase item, money moves out from his hand to the supplier, so it should be debited. Furniture and fitting are assets, and we know that assets are to be debited. Wages are expenses he makes to settle his workers, so they are to be debited. Creditors are the people that the business are owing, and so the business are expected to pay them, and it is credited. We have the debtors. These are the people that owe the business, and so it should be debited. We have an example here where I attach figures to the items. It said, from the following ledger balances, extract a trial balance of Mezu and Sons for the month of February 2020. It is important to note that any business can choose a month that will be his trading period, and it is at the end of that trading period that such businessman will be able to prepare accounts such as the trial balance. We have capital 7,500, sale 781 naira, purchases 1,516 naira, furniture and fitting 1,670 naira, wages 2,245 naira, creditors 350 naira, debtors 3,200 naira. If a student is able to identify the item that is an asset, the ones that are liability, the ones that are income or gain, and the ones that are expenses, he or she will be able to know which to debit and which to credit. And if a child correctly do that, then the balance of the credit side of the trial balance must be equal to the balance of the debit side. As we can see here, the capital was debited 7,500, sale 781 naira, credited rather. Purchases 1,516 naira, debited. Furniture and fitting, which is an asset, 1,670 debited. Wages and expenses 2,245 naira, debited. Creditor 350 naira, credited, while debtor 3,200 naira, debited. That brings us to a total of the debit side 8,631 naira, and also the credit side 8,631 naira. But if a child wrongly position, for instance, crediting purchases or crediting furniture and fitting, it will be obvious that there will be discrepancy in the totaling. I have also listed out some balances. At this your level, you might not be expected in the exam to prepare a trial balance, but the examiner will wish to test your ability to identify items that should be debited and the ones to be credited. This reminds you to go back to the rule guiding the preparation of trial balance so that you'll be acquainted with them. I've listed 1. Cash in hand 200 naira, cash at bank 350 naira, machinery 150 naira, loan 500 naira, bank interest 200 naira, bank charges 120 naira. You are expected to identify from this list of balances the items that should be debited and the items to be credited in the trial balance. So from what we have learned so far, we have seen that Trial balance is a very important account in bookkeeping, because without trial balance, errors will not be revealed. And if these errors are not revealed, it means it's going to affect the preparation of the final accounts, which are the trading, profit and loss account, and the balance sheet. And this will mess up the whole account of an organization. So with the help of the trial balance, such errors are identified and corrected before these final accounts are prepared. Students are also advised to get acquainted with the rules guiding the preparation of trial balance, so they will be able to know the items to debit and the ones to be credited. Thank you.